Of course, now the US, when it comes to services, especially driven by digital services of especially the big tech firms, I'm assuming you'll probably know the number better. I'm assuming that the US runs a massive surplus there vis-a-vis other countries. And that would be obviously a very rational reason for why President Trump is not overly concerned about the services piece of that. So I wanted to ask you, take that opportunity to ask you about the impact all of this is having on some of those big tech firms. How do you perceive set of tariffs and churns in these trade deals impacting what I would say today might be considered the economic crown jewel of the US economy, which are the big tech firms that seem to continue to grow up, grow. How do you think this will impact them?
Yeah. So first of all, let me briefly talk about digital goods. And the biggest digital goods producer is Apple. Their world has gotten more complicated because they might build more stuff in the United States, which is costly. Some of the parts are costly, might be losing access over time to the Chinese market. Then when it comes to digital services, first of all, you're not being very directly affected by the tariffs. Basically, two economies in the world that seem to be capable of producing these digital services, the United States and China. In part, that's because of the scale that you need to make AI work. In part, it's because of the financing that you need to make AI work. Maybe there's a certain amount of first mover advantage that both countries continue to benefit from as well. And so far, at least, internal dynamics of AI, what inventions are happening when, have mattered much, much, much more than any of these policy trade type thing.
And is your sense that in that sort of context, the US seems to be managing its, twin objectives or geopolitics on one side and trade quite well? I know you've been an advocate of things like the CHIPS Act, etc. Is your sense that if we were to now step back and look at how that geopolitical objectives vis-a-vis countries like China and Russia, etc., and then the trade objectives as we're trying to make sense of, do you think that the balance is now being achieved fairly well?
It's been perfectly decent. I think reducing some of the sort of regulatory fears the AI industry has had in the United States has been the right thing. I could argue either side of the United States exporting the AI chips to China. They're going to figure out how to make these at some point. I think there's only so much you can slow them down. A lot of the AI I actually think is positive sum, where countries are going to learn from each other. I don't think it's all a zero-sum, winner-takes-all type of contest. So I'm not positive that we've been handling it right on China, but there's not an obvious right answer. But, mostly this isn't policy. This is a group of people who are unbelievably talented, taking advantage of some unbelievable improvements in, processing power and in data availability. Some of these ideas aren't brand new, but the ability to exploit them and take advantage of them is brand new. And, the most important policy ingredient to all of this in the United States is immigration. And that's the big difference between the United States and China. China has 1.4 billion people that it can call on the talents of. The United States has, 8 billion people, if it plays its cards right and is willing to let people come and contribute to the United States. We wouldn't have anything resembling the tech industry broadly or the AI industry specifically were it not for our immigration policy.